Welcome to another episode of What Else You Got with Mitch and Margot. Oops, I forgot to take off my glasses. You probably just saw a bunch of reflections there. My morning eyes are tired in the morning, so I tend to wear my glasses more in the morning. You
Well,
you probably wear your glasses in the morning too, don't you?
I wear my glasses all day, every day.
I probably should, but I
So I was
don't.
going
I
to
know.
say, welcome to November. You survived up to this point.
How are we already in November 2025? What a year. It's been a year.
Yeah, it's always one of those interesting things where the minutes are long, the hours are short, the days are long, the weeks are short,
Weird.
the months are long, but the year is short.
For me, it's all just been a blur so fast. It's just gone so stinking fast. Oh my word. Man,
So I heard from a little birdie that you've got a topic for us today.
I do have a topic for us. I, in my other job, I have been busy interviewing job applicants. And so I have got a particular topic on my brain, how to win a job interview. So right now, my perspective is completely from the role of the interviewer, but I remember the days back when I was the interviewee. And I want to share with you today my opinion about the three most important things an interviewee can do to win over the interviewer in a job interview.
That'll
Maybe it's
be
too
interesting
early.
because I've done the interview. I've been the interviewer, and I've recently been the interviewee, and it'll be very interesting. One, to see what your viewpoint is compared to my viewpoint, and see what the industry differences look like.
Because, you and I don't always agree on everything. And I think that always makes for a very interesting conversation. So I want you to be thinking about what the three most important things an interviewee, so don't ask Google, I want it from your own brain. The three most important things an interviewee can do or say in an interview. My opinion, number one, you need to research the company. You need to know what the company does. Number two, you need to know what your goals are. And number three, you need to have some questions for the interviewer. So I'm going to expand on those just a little bit. Number one, you need to know what the company does, because as the interviewer, my first question is always, tell me what you know about our company. And I kid you not, the other day in an interview, a person shrugged her shoulders and she said, nothing. You guys just do stuff. Yeah, okay. Interview over. If you're not interested enough to at least look at the website or at least Google the company before you go in there, then you are certainly not invested enough to be a, a valuable employee, a long term employee. Yeah, I mean, that's proof right there you don't care. My second point, your goals. In my opinion, an interviewee should not say, my goal here is to learn as much as I can from your company so that I can go and start my own company. Why would I hire you? If you're only coming here to take, and then leave, no, thank you. So don't say that in an interview. Don't say, I want to come and learn as much as I can from you. No, say you want to come and contribute and be a part of the team. Tell the interviewer what assets you are bringing to the position. So identify your goals in such a way that you're a contributor, not a taker. And then follow-up questions. It always surprises me when we get to the end of the job interview and I ask the person, do you have any questions for me? And again, they shrug their shoulders and they say, no. Come with at least three questions. You might not need to ask them all, but come with a few questions. And if you've taken the time to research the company, that's where you can formulate those questions. Those are my 3 main points. So, research the company ahead of time, identify goals that you can then help contribute to the company, and 3, come with questions of your own. What are your 3 off the top of your head?
Off the top of my head, so far I'm at two. I'm trying to think of what my third one is, but the first one is confidence. Uh,
Competence
well, that's
or
number two. Confidence
competence?
is the first one because it can be just as simple as you're confident enough to have a conversation with me. You might not have the skills needed for the job. You might not have a clue what's going on, but you're confident enough to be in the moment and be able to own what you're doing. And then as you're going through the interview, you get to show your competence of the topics that are being discussed. And so it's one of those that if you have competence but not no confidence, then it doesn't look like you have competence. And that's why I have confidence as the first one, because as you're able to confidently answer, and you don't have to be correct, you can even acknowledge that you're not correct, but it's one of those that you have the confidence to try to answer the question. And as you go through, you'll be able to express your competence. And then from there, the third one that I'm leaning towards right now is just being friendly and being a team player, in the sense of you may have confidence, but it may come off as arrogance. But if you're friendly and a team worker, the confidence shows that you are a contributor and you're able to help build together. And so those are kind of my three, because I've met people that they might not have the competence, but because they have the confidence and the friendliness and the ability to work with others, I can overlook their competence. But it's also one of those that if they have the competence and the confidence, it's one of those that I'm going, how much of a team player could they be? Is this something I can stick them in a role that they do great by themselves, or is it a team role? And if they have competence and friendliness, but not so much the confidence, you could sort of work around it. But it also comes down to for more senior positions, the more confidence you have and the more team building you have, you're able to work in those more integrated roles where you have to work with others, not just on your team. But again, if you have confidence and competence, you can at least be working on very specific assignments.
So, would you hire someone who lacks confidence?
It depends, because if they express enough competence, meaning they're able to do the job quite well and they're friendly with others, but they have to warm up and they have to be comfortable, then probably. But it also, because I've done a couple of interviews where you can tell the person is just crazy nervous and they're not giving off the confidence because they're just super nervous. But that's part of the reason with, at least when I do interviews, I try to build a friendly environment where it's a conversation, and usually about halfway through the interview, if they have confidence, that's when it starts coming out because they are more comfortable, and so you're able to gauge from a unsure environment to a safer environment to a confident environment, and you're able to see where they sit with that.
So, what if someone, whether it's just being nervous or lacking confidence, what if, as the interviewer, what if your gut saying this could be a really loyal employee? Would you would you take the chance on them being a loyal long-term employee, even if they don't have, even if they're not exuding confidence?
Yes, but also comes down to what role I'm going for. Because if I'm going for fresh out of college, I can take any kind of bench warmer. It doesn't really matter because I can train them up to whatever I need them to be. But if I'm looking for a leader and they don't have confidence,
Right.
but they have a chance to be loyal, it's one of those I'm going, I need you to own this. But if they can't show confidence to own something, then I
Yes.
probably will have to pass.
Yes, I agree with you. So if it's more of an entry level position, then lack of confidence or lack of competence could be overlooked or given some leeway for if they have an element of loyalty, that element of friendliness you've talked about. If they have, if they are invested enough that they've researched the company, um, I think entry level you can work with a lot of things. Um, but absolutely I agree. If you're looking for a mid-level role or an upper level role that involves an element of leadership and confidence, then I think confidence is essential because, yeah, competence can be, mm, well, part of it can be taught and trained, but competence also, we should probably look up the definition of competence. Competence is also greatly influenced by someone's common sense. I don't think you can train common sense.
So
I
I
think
actually heard something really interesting about common sense. And just because you're looking up competence is the ability to perform a task effectively, is the definition I
Did
found.
you already look it up or you just know that in your dictionary brain?
That's my dictionary brain.
Okay,
But
can you say it again?
the ability to perform a task uh, effectively, basically.
Okay, do you have a dictionary in your brain?
Uh, it's just one of those that I've learned how to understand how words are used, and occasionally I will look up words, and then it
Because
really.
holy smokes, almost exactly what Google just gave me, competence, the ability to do something successfully or efficiently.
Yeah. Um,
But I do think there's an element of common sense in there though, because if you have the natural gift of common sense, you can look at a problem or a project or a task and you can stand there and look at it for a second and be able to competently figure it out, get it done efficiently.
so one of the interesting things I heard about common sense is a better way to say is cultural sense, because
Mm.
depending on where you're at, you can depending on what culture you've been raised in, common sense seems to trend around cultural understanding of things. And then in some cases, you can teach and train that cultures where the common sense, the expected outcome, which is second nature, because that's really what common sense is the ability to do something second nature or to have understanding. And so, one reason why common sense isn't so common is because the definition of common sense is a cultural centered belief.
I'm not sure I agree 100% for a couple of reasons. Number one, I think when you say cultural sense, that could be misinterpreted in and of itself because cultural sense could be defined as being aware of someone else's culture or being aware of your own culture. Where common sense, and I just asked my friend sitting over here, his name is Google, um, says common sense is sound judgment in practical matters. So I would define a practical matter of um, what do you do if there's no toilet paper in the bathroom? Well, wait, I'm going to answer my own question. Common sense would say, look before you sit down to use the toilet. Look and see if there's any. That's common sense. And then if there is none, either go figure out where there's more or ask somebody where is there more. So to me, that's common sense. Look before you sit and then go get some if there's none there. I don't see, I'm having a conversation. Why are you here? I can have a conversation all by myself. Um because cultural sense, I suppose, because I had a friend, I have not traveled to Turkey. She was traveled to Turkey and culturally they don't, and now I don't mean to be making any sort of offensive judgment. This is just what she told me. The public restrooms were a hole in the floor and you squat and go. So okay.
And depending on where you're culturally, you don't shake left hand because that's what you use to wipe.
Ew.
But it's one of those that,
Ew. Ew.
but it's one of those that it's culturally common sense is toilet paper. What's that? Or if we go to other countries, Because in the U.S. we flush our toilet paper. Other countries you stick it in a trash can, and it's one of those that what's common sense. Common sense in some cultures is you stick it in a trash can. Common sense in the U.S. is you flush it.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I thought I was proving a point and I proved your point. Wow, I think my mind is just a little bit blown.
So
Um,
going back to the original point of common sense to do a task, it's one of those that do they have the basic understanding and competence where either a you can train them to this is how we do it, or is it within the cultural realm of in this industry, in this country, in this realm, you just naturally do this. Like, which way do you walk down the hall? Generally, you walk down on the right side of the hall in the U.S. because that's how cars drive. But at the same time, some companies do it differently because they intentionally try to disrupt the norm.
okay, I just I am processing. I am feeling some sort of way because wow, I think I I try to pride myself in being a humble person. How's that for a statement?
Uh huh.
Um,
Just like
I
Riddell said, I'm more confident than thou art, or more humble than thou art. That's what it was.
Oh my word, because I think right now what's going on in my brain is my ego is warring with my natural love of learning. I love learning new things, but this little conversation about common sense versus cultural sense has it has really irked my ego because my ego has always thought that I am gifted with common sense. And my expectations of others has been have a little freaking common sense or go away. And now I feel like I have been unfairly judgmental of certain people around me. And I am rethinking all of the times I have thought, oh my gosh, can you just have some common sense? But then now I'm wondering, well, maybe maybe they don't know how to use toilet. And it has nothing to do with toilet paper. I was just trying to pick something that I thought was common enough that would serve an example and prove my point and satisfy my ego. Now my ego is a little confused.
But it's simple things like that that help you better understand the world, which it kind of goes to our tagline of learning of logic and life lessons. And it's just one of those that, uh, to your point, it's one of those that we think of the world a certain way, but when we are shown a different light of it, then we have that conflict of, do I want to accept the new world that I've seen, or do I want to keep my world? And so it's one of those that sometimes it's a very hard journey, but it's one of those that as you become enlightened in the ability to see new things, that's where you're able to progress. And I'm just going to put this one little dab in there just because it's not talked about clear enough. Just on the sense of common sense, uh, just in the US, how everyone's upset about politics and how everyone just needs more common sense. It goes back to cultural sense. Depends on where you are, it depends on what viewpoints you have. And yes, something might be common where you're at, but two cities over might be completely different.
Yes. And I also think you were talking about, do you want to become enlightened or not? I think that's very valid. And I think it goes hand in hand with what I was saying about ego. I think, and I'm not a psychologist, so I don't know all of the correct ways to explain psychology, but my instinct is telling me that my ego wants to protect me. And and so my ego would be the one holding me back from being enlightened because my ego would tell me that is new, unfamiliar territory. It might not be safe. Let's stay here in this cocoon where it is safe. But if I want personal growth, if I want to increase my emotional intelligence, I need to step into the unknown, whether that's toward enlightenment or at least toward new information. I need to step beyond my limits and my boundaries and learn new things. I think when we are actively learning new things, we are becoming more and more enlightened, more and more aware of other people's cultures and their definition of common sense or cultural sense. And enlightenment is a good thing.
Yep. And just on the note of ego protects, if we go all the way back to hunter gatherer, what you know of your area is safe. But sometimes, if you go two bushes over, you'll find new food that can help improve things. But it's being in that safety realm is really where you try to just survive and make do.
And oh, sorry. Go ahead. I was going to say,
I was
if
going
you
to change
think about,
topic.
sorry, if you think about Maslow's hierarchy of needs, if you're down there focused on basic survival needs, that's where all your effort and energy is going. If you want to move toward enlightenment, then you need to find that food in the other bush and meet your survival needs. Do you remember what you were saying? I apologize for interrupting.
Yeah, I was just going to take all this. So, with this discussion, if we take this all the way back to our starting topic of interviews, it's even though I usually approach with a set of standard questions, I will let there be a conversation and I'll let it meander around because you get to understand how the person thinks.
Yes.
And one of the big points of an interview is you're trying to see how the person thinks and how
Yes.
they're going to be able to do a task, not so much of can they answer the question correctly?
Well, and also how they interact. Are they going to be able to be a team player? Because if you let them meander with their answer, you can see a glimpse of their ego, and you can see a glimpse of, are they just wanting to prove how smart they are, or are they wanting to be a team player and engage in a conversation? And is there back and forth conversationally, or is it a monologue coming from them because they're trying to prove something? And so I agree with you. The I have a standard set of questions, and frankly, I refer to them if it feels like I'm pulling teeth in the interview, and that's the only way I can get information. But the conversational ones, those are the ones that I remember. Those are the ones that impact me more.
Yeah, and it's one of those that one of the things that I've learned to do is when you ask the tell me about a time that you overcame a problem. Those are standard questions. Everyone's coached through them, which means you don't get a clean answer. You get a answer. And so I ask questions weirdly that provide the same insight but differently. My absolute favorite question that I love to ask in the interview, and because it feels off topic, I usually save it for my last question of do you play video games or sports? If so, what game and what position? And so it's one of those that everyone falls for it. They don't realize that it's a personality profile test. Of So when someone says they play CS:GO and they play solo and they play up front, they're probably not a team player. But if you see someone says I play soccer and I'm a defender, they are a team player. They're willing to let other people take the lead and take credit, but they are there to help participate. If someone plays something like Minecraft, they're creative. They have potential to be a team player, but they usually think outside the box. And so it's one of those that the games you play and the hobbies you do tell a lot more about you than what you think. And so it's just one of those that when I ask someone that question, they think, oh, it's just a fun question. They're asking me what games they play. They're trying to be friendly. In reality, I'm profiling.
I love that. I might take that question. One of the questions I usually find insightful is when I ask them, from your most recent work experience, what was your most favorite task that you did, and what was your least favorite task, and why? And it's usually, and you can see how it's going to give me additional information, but oftentimes the answer to the least favorite task is the most informative to me, because it tells me if they're going to be resistant to some of the essential job duties that I'm going to be asking them to fulfill.
Yeah. Um, Probably the one question that I was asked in an interview, actually a couple months ago, that just stuck with me is they basically said something to the effect of, for transparency, what is the biggest thing you completely screwed up? That way I know how to work with you. And then so you're thinking, what was my biggest screw up? And was it impactful enough where I remember it? And it's just one of those that from the interviewer side, it's the how bad will you screw up if I let you screw up? And so it's just one of those that it's a very interesting question that you don't think of uh, normally because it's the what was your biggest failure?
I like that question, and I have used that one before because it tells the interviewer several things. First of all, it tells the interviewer, are you humble enough to admit to something you really messed up? Number two, how quickly, when you made that mistake at work, how quickly did you report it to your superiors? And number three, what kind of problem solver are you? Because when you made that mistake, what solutions did you seek out to fix it and rectify it? And so I think it identifies, um, are you humble enough to admit you're not perfect? Are you going to reach out to leadership? Are you a team player? And are you a problem solver? Because we're all going to make mistakes, every single one of us. And the more quickly we can admit it, the sooner we can resolve it. And if we're willing to identify it, then I think that shows a great strength.
Yeah, and I think what we've discussed is just one of those that there's many different aspects to an interview, and it really is just trying to figure out who the person is in a very short amount of time, and are they capable of doing the job. There was one video I saw a while ago of for these interview processes that are strung out for like 12 interview rounds. How come you couldn't figure it out after the first or third interview? It's just one of those that why do you have to keep calling them back? Which either means your process needs improvement or you're not asking the right questions.
Or your business is not being run very efficiently. So as
Yeah,
an interviewee, do you want to work for a company that has such a long drawn out 12? Do businesses actually do 12 rounds of
there are a
interviewing?
couple that have 12.
Holy smokes.
The longest I have gone through personally, I think, was 6.
I suppose if the company is big enough and has a huge HR department, it gives more work for the HR department to do, but man, that might be something that is interesting enough to me that I might go look that up on my own because that just seems inefficient to me. But
Yeah,
yeah.
at least in the IT realm, generally what happens is you have the HR screener. Then you'll either have a manager interview or a team interview. And that team interview, I can kind of in a couple forms. Generally, what it is at least in IT, is a technical interview, usually with one or two interviewers. And then sometimes there's a second technical interview that covers different aspects, just because there's enough topics. And then the manager interview. And so generally, there's at least in IT, there's about 3 to 6 interview rounds for an average company, just because there
Okay.
are the different groups you need to go through, and it's a big competence check.
Okay, and that makes more sense. If it's a bigger company, an HR screener actually absolutely makes sense. And so I can see the logic behind um I can see the logic behind 4, the
Hmm.
HR screener and then the specific team and then management. So I can absolutely see a minimum of 3. That makes sense to me. If you have an HR department and an
Hmm.
HR screener. Yeah.
Yeah, and then for smaller companies, it's one of those that why do you need 3 interviews when one, maybe two, is all you
I
need?
I think 2 are essential. Just because, like you mentioned before, oftentimes people will show up nervous to that first one. And so whenever I do, and I typically do 2 we're a smaller company. So I typically do 2 before making a decision because in that second interview, the person now knows what to expect. They know who they're talking to, and so they usually present in the second interview a little bit differently than they present in the first interview which is very telling in and of itself.
Yeah. And the nice thing is, uh, if you go through an interview process and you wash out, oh well, it's not a company for you. Or if they have to jump through hoops and you just go no. And the interview really goes two ways. The interviewer or the interviewee is interviewing the interviewer, even though they might not be the one driving it. But you can see what questions they're asking. If you don't like their questions, you probably don't want to work there. If you don't like the way the guy's asking the questions, don't work there. And it's one of those that there are plenty of options. And I've been turned down from some phenomenal roles that I know I'd be a perfect fit. Others, I either didn't agree with the company, I just didn't feel right after an interview. And so I actually dropped the company flow. And it really is just one of those that interview is, at the very least, is practice.
Practice, and I absolutely agree with the two-way street. And I think that if you go in as an interviewee, if you go in with the attitude of this is a two-way interview, this is a two-way conversation, I think that will feed that element of confidence that you were talking about. Because if you go in with an air of desperation, I need this job, I need you to like me, I really need to win this interview, then you're not going to appear confident. But if you go in thinking this is going to be a two-way conversation because I want to interview you, I've come with my own questions, I've already researched this company, then you can, that will fuel your confidence. So I think this has been a great discussion about job interviews. Did you have anything else you wanted to say?
I do have one last point of
Okay.
I don't prep a ton for my interviews because I have the competence to do the jobs that I'm applying for. And so I don't have to go look up how to do something because I know that with the skill set I have, I can say, here's the answer I know off the top of my head. If I don't have the answer, I can tell you how I would get the answer. And it's just one of those that if you overly prepare for a interview, you may fail it. If you are preparing weight limits to go unload trucks, why are you researching how what the weight limits of trucks are when you're just going to be packing and unpacking trucks? So be confident in your competence, and
Mm,
you'll be able to take care of just about any interview.
I love that. This has been a great conversation. I wonder what we'll talk about next time.
We'll
Maybe
find
everybody
out.
should come back. What?
We'll find out in the next episode of What Else You Got with Mission Margot. And we'll see you guys next time.